Hi everyone, Bones here from BSA Bantams and welcome back once again. This video is back on the Sellicks Beach race bike. A few little jobbies to progress things on that, so I'll give you a heads up about what we're up to. So from the last video, this is all finished now. I just had to rivet these in, so they're all riveted. If you're wondering what the paint this is, I've actually painted both sides of these two before I riveted them together, because they're obviously bare metal in there. So anyway, that's all done. Trying to do this one-handed, but anyway, everything's working really nicely there. Very happy. All done. Next jobby up here. As you can see, this is a pretty aggressive steering lock. So now I've got to fortuitously, you can see it just down in there, or in there, that's the original Bantam steering stem stop. So I'm going to basically lever off that and make a plate up to get a steering stop. Somewhere about there, I reckon the front wheel at about a 45 off the centre line, something like that. So we'll get stuck into that. Now, as you've seen in this video and the previous one, I have this frame set up here, and I think I mentioned in the last one, I am not using this frame. I'll use the one down here on the bench in the swing arm, and I'll do all my modifications on this. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. This frame is straight for a start. It's in better condition, I believe, and also I don't have to keep pulling that down to go and modify or bringing it through here into the welding bay. And I've done my back as well, so this is a lot easier to manage at the moment, and to be able to get access all the different parts without having to continually keep pulling the other bike up, or the mock-up apart. So that's why we're doing it this way. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a bit of cardboard and I'm just going to position it here and get the scissors, and I'm actually going to just cut something that's the profile that I want, that I can just use as a template and mark it out on the steel. So I'll go and grab some scissors. So when I weld it, I will actually weld it to the original Bantam steering stop, and that way I'm not welded directly to the tube, which is not entirely what I want to do. Like actually weld to the tube, I'd rather weld to something else. If I do have to do, and I'll show you later, the other frame that I've got to do a bit of bronzing on that in a few areas, but we'll show you that in a minute once I get this done. Okay, so I've made a template up, and I'm just going to cut it out now. I'll have to drill it, we'll have to bore it so we get the same profile as the frame, and then I've made it a fraction bigger, so once we get it set up on this frame, I can actually get the angles absolutely perfect, just in case I'm a little bit out when I weld it on. Bored out the hole in it, so it fits the same profile as the the frame tube. So now it's just a matter of cutting it all out, and I'll get that done. So before I get too far, and I've already done it, but I'll show you what I've done. Before I get too far involved into modifying frames and doing all that sort of stuff, I just make sure it's got no rust spots in it. So I've just got a pair of multi grips. If it's going to rust out, it's going to be at the bottom generally. You know, you shouldn't be able to crush it, but I have done frames where you just grabbed it on and then bang, nothing, just paper thin. No, I think that's pretty good. The other thing you can do, ball peen hammer, and you're listening. Listen through. The other thing too, on Bantams, this front engine mount, it's always squished in, so people go and restore it, they blast and paint and everything like that. Then when it's time to go and put their engine in, it's too close, so they've got to put something on it to open it up. So before you go and blast and paint and everything, just tweak them open a fraction. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go over the top. And then this one's definitely in a fair way. That way your engine will drop straight in, and then when you put your bolts in, they'll pull back up. Now, I'm prepping to do some bronzing on this, and I will bring in a bit closer to have a look at what I am doing. All right, so all your Bantams up to and including D5, I have this lug in the frame. So this is where your footrest rod bar goes through. This is obviously the frame's upside down. There's your head stem down there. So they have this casting here. So what I'm going to do is actually bronze this up both sides. I'm going to dab a bit more bronze in here, even though that weld looks pretty good in there. I'll wire buff all these to do an inspection on them. We've got our steering stop. What I'll do is I'll actually put a tack weld of arc weld on that side just to hold it in place, and I'll bronze that as well. And also put some additional bronze just in the engine mounts here and on the other side, just to strengthen things up a bit. So I don't know if you can make it out in there, but see that gap in there? So these two plates here have another plate called your center stand stop plate on here. So this is where, when your center stand rotates around, it contacts the plate that bolts along here. You go sitting on a Bantam, these bend backwards. So this is why lots of Bantams you see, both wheels are touching the ground. These bend. So you can see this one here has got a dirty big crack in it, because some fat bastard's been sitting on it when he's been starting his bike. So never sit on a Bantam to start your bikes. Just start it with your left foot off, or get it off the center stand and start it that way, because this is what happens. So weld prep all ready to go. So time to actually I'll arc weld this on first, and then I'll get the oxy out and we'll start doing some bronzing. So we've got our steering lock in, bit of extra bronze there, and on the underside as well, and fixed up the crack in that. So our frame's done now. Went well. So next issue to overcome is this. This spindle diameter is 1/2 inch. for these shockies, they're 10mm in the ID. Now, the reason I got these shock absorbers, because they're just slightly longer by about 3/4 of an inch from the original length. And if you've seen the sort of original ones, they're all black. I didn't like them, so I want to fit these up. So I'm going to have to pull one of the swing arms apart. I'm guessing that they're going to be bronzed in, but we'll soon find out. Alright, so I have to sort out the rear shocky. So if we come around here, you can see that shocky there. The bush inside it obviously won't go over the 1/2 inch stuff that's coming out of the swing arm. So what I've done is I've punched out the original steel bush that was in here, and it's gone straight on. And if I give it a tug, don't know if you can see in there, but it looks a bit like a, oh, well done. Looks a bit like a thread. So it will accept a range of sizes of bushes to go over this, because it really, you've got to have a bush to be able to crush up once you put the nut on, to be able to centralize and have a washer either side of that. So it came out pretty easily, mind you, over here, over the workbench. That's the bush that was in it. So I just machined something up and just pressed it straight out. So we'll go a bush very similar, obviously bigger diameter, bigger internal diameter, and we'll press it in, and I'm pretty confident it'll go into the shock mount. So that's a pretty easy win for that. The top mount is fine. So 10mm, 3/8, there's, you know, it's close enough. There's just trying to get some movement out of that. It's bugger all. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. So yeah, that's going to be a pretty good win. So what are the next jobbies? Probably start to do some butchering and modifying things like that, cutting the excess off where we don't need stuff on the frame. But yeah, it's been a pretty good day so far, so it's good to have a win now and again. So yeah, as I said, I'll get some of these bushes machined up, I think. So this is the tank I'm going to use, and don't start stressing, this is not going to be how it's presented. I'm actually going to make a fiberglass one-piece dummy fairing seat rear mudguard to take weight off. So I've chosen this tank because it's about 1/3 of the weight of a Bantam tank for a start. 3 litre motorised push bike tank, and that's about all we're going to need. So what I have to do is now move this filler cap up to the top here. So I'll cut this out, reposition it in, well, I'll fill that bit in there, then reposition it up here. So I think it'll work all right. Now the actual mounting of it, I won't mount it like it is with some pretty poor sort of clamping system. I will actually weld some brackets and have this rubber mounted to the frame. So start doing some cutting. Just putting a little center punch mark there, and I'm just marking out here as a bit of a idea where the top piece has to be. Oh geez, it's pretty good paint. Rightio. We'll see how we go. So I've just cut the filler neck out, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised at the thickness of this. I thought I'd be having a weld tissue paper, but it's actually a fair bit thicker than I thought, so it shouldn't be too bad. So I've got my coupon made up. That fits in there just nicely. I've got some other magnets to hold it in place while I tack it. So I'll get it all tacked in, and then I'll start stitching around and weld it in. So I've got our coupon tacked in, and I'll just go around now and weld it in. So that's our coupon welded in there. Now I've just got to do a cutout here for the filler neck and get that welded in. You can see the mark, the witness mark I had there, just a little centre punch mark. So obviously I'll have to cut into the coupon that I've just welded in as well. Righto, we've got our filler cut out of the top of the tank now. And now I've just got to get this to sort of fit the profile. That's why I've cut that with a fair size lip, so I have got something to work with, rather than cut a bigger coupon and just drop it in flat. And so I'll see how I go. So I've got the filler neck basically filled in, so I'm going to have to tack and just work my lip into the profile as we go around. But it's so far so good. We'll soon find out once I start welding it. Alright, so we've got the filler neck spotted in. Now I'll go around and weld it and line it back. Okay, so that's the end result after we've welded the filler cap in. Pretty happy with that. So coat of paint on that and we should be right. I'll just fit it up to the back to the bike and just see how it looks. So I've mounted the tank up, and like I said earlier on, I'm actually going to do a fiberglass one-piece thing. Something to resemble that. So if you don't know what one of those is, it's a Rickman Matisse. I have absolutely always loved them. I think they're one of the most gorgeous bikes ever made. Wish I had one in my shed, but I'm going to try and do it on a budget and a cheap ass one. So see if I can make a mini Matisse. So obviously I've got pictures and I'm looking at relationships between filler cap position, height, because I am going to make fiberglass mould for these bikes. So I have to get this right for the tank mounts, which I'm going to put on obviously on the other frame. So what I'll do is I'll have a couple of brackets, rubber grommets in them. So this will be like isolated vibration wise, but I think this is about the position because I'm looking at the relationship, like the depth of the actual tank. And the actual line of this is sort of through here, but it sits up a bit higher, which will be good, and so you don't have a huge tank like that. So I'm just trying to visualize profiles and everything like that with the actual tank position. Well, that's the theory anyway. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Don't adjust your volume on your bloody computer or whatever you're watching it on. It's pouring rain at the moment. So what I've done is I've made up the fuel tank mounts, and I've got this jig here that I use for one of my, well, the centre stand stop plate on the Bantam. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little joggle in it, just so it follows the profile of the frame. So I'm just going to make sure that's square. That's looking all right. Let's pump it down. That's looking pretty good. Hopefully I don't run out of travel. Let's have a look. That looks all right. Just put a little bit of a joggle in it. It'll be fine. So I've got the mount welded on, and what I've got here is I've just machined these up. They will fit up there. Just lift the tank off the spine of the frame, and then they'll locate into the grommet, which will be sitting in there. Then a washer behind that, and that'll just give me some like vibration isolation from the actual frame to the tank. So these will just slide up over there. Lift the tank up just a fraction, about 3 mil I think I calculated it out. So it's not rubbing, and that'll just centralise everything. So what I'm doing now is I have taken pressed the bush out of here. There's got one in there. And what I have to do is I have to make another one. So I'm just making that up on the lathe at the moment. So we'll go for a walk down the other end of the workshop, and I've just got it set up at the moment and just drilling it out. So I'll make 4 of those because we've got 2 bites. So whilst obviously while you set up and you're just doing it, well, it's just easier, isn't it? So we will get into finishing drilling this out. I've got to make nuts up as well because those threads on the shock mount are actually cycle thread, pretty standard cycle thread. We don't know about them. I don't know why they do it at times in their infinite wisdom, but they adopted a Swiss metric thread, so this cycle thread is the only thread in the British imperial system at 60-degree thread angle like metric and unified. So anyway, and then you go to brass thread, which is basically the same except it's 55. Can't believe it. But anyway, enough of that. We'll just get into it. Get these done. So we've got our bushes made that will press into the bottom of the shocky, and they'll go slide straight onto the swing arm mount here. So I've made 4 of them because we're doing 2 bikes. So while you're tooled up doing a pair, you might as well just keep going. So that's what I've done. So these will be zinc plated. So next job now is to go and make some nuts for the cycle threads that are on here. So right now I'm making some nuts up to suit the rear shock mount, and they're British standard cycle thread. So I've just got a bit of hex bar here. I'm just going to see how it actually looks I'll make one up and put it on the bike and see how it looks. I'm going to have to make a pretty large flange washer, which is sort of part of the course anyway, and we'll just sort of make it and just see how it looks. So I'm just taking out my chamfering tool to put in an intermediate tap, 3/8 cycle thread. So I will put a bit of gel on it and just wind it in by hand. So lay down a gear. That's going in nicely. So I'll keep doing this with the intermediate tap, back it out, and then I'll run a plug tap in to finish the threads off down to the bottom of the blind hole. Right, change that. You got it, man? Mm-hmm. We're currently doing a tool changeover. Putting in a profile tool just to make I've made the nut, and I just want to put a domed head on it. Don't have to take them all the way out, mate. Sorry.
Oh, I took them all the way out.
That's all right. I just need that out, and you can put that one. You can put those in and clamp that tool in. Good man. So yeah, we're just putting a domed profile on the nut. So changing the tool over, set the tool height, and then we'll be right. All right, man. Grab me the chuck key. Very good. So I've got a profiling tool when I do handlebar clamp bolts. So this is going to work all right. So I've just done that. So I'll just give it a bit of polish with a bit of emery, but that'll come up nicely. Grab the camera, Levi. Yeah, get your fingers in front of the lens. Bring it here. Good man. So what we'll do, I'm going to make a big flanged washer, and then that'll support this side of the actual bush when it goes on. So it's time to make another 3 of these. That's it, wind her out. Now you're going to wind this tool out. Now you're going to do what they call a facing cut now. So you wind it in, and how much did we have to take off?
1.2.
So 1.2 on your digital readout over here. Going too far. No. Right, 1.2. Just wind it that way. So it's 1.2. Slow. Yep. That's it. Now just wind it in, and it'll take a facing cut off that. That's it. That's it. Just keep it feeding it nice like that. You're doing a good job, man. And when it gets to the middle and it's faced off, you wind it out. That's it. Wind it out. Good job. Turn the lathe off. Good job, my man. First time facing, wasn't it? Spot on. Good job. So we'll go in and we'll get the profile. You can change it out for the profile tool. That's it. Good job. See how strong I am? That one there, mate. That's it. All right. I'll do this one, all right?
Okay.
So there's our nuts done, and there's obviously the bushes that we've made for the shock mounts done too. So they'll be set aside, and we'll zinc plate those up. Now I'm going to go on to making the big washers for for these, so we'll get them done, 4 of those.
Get the hot wash.
So that's the end result. Made up the washer, dome nut, so I think that looks pretty schmick. So we will put those aside and get all zinc plated. Rightio. Got a workshop full today. D7 Pastorals come in. The boys are just pulling the engine apart over there. Customer inherited this bike. He asked us to check over the engine as his dad was elderly when he put it together, which was a pretty good move because the gudgeon pin clip wasn't in properly, and there's a heap of other stuff that is wrong that could have destroyed the engine. The engine's got fresh piston, bottom end and everything in it, so it'll come apart and go back together really well. The bike itself is just missing a few little bits and bobs, mudguard stays and things like that, which are all things that we can make up. We can make up in-house. If you don't know what a pastoral is, it's a precursor to the Bushman's. So a bit different to a standard D7 with which is back the front, that mudguard setup, but no steel thing. We've got plastic gaiters, rubber gaiters there. Single switch, they were direct lighting, had a higher mudguard that wasn't fully rounded. So yeah, pretty easy way to pick up a D7 Pastoral. So he's left us with a box of bits to get this bike operational again, and on first look it's not too bad actually. But we'll get it all pulled apart. Boys will get the engine done. They'll have that done today. So that's if Levi doesn't keep getting in the way.
Hey!
Yes. So you can see this piece of wire I've got here and the little tags hanging off it. So what this is the length of my tuned pipe, and the distances between here and here and here and here are the different tapers of the pipe. So what I'm going to do now is try and fit it up to the bike and try and plan out a path, a route that the exhaust will take. So we'll go over to the bike and plug this in and start bending it around and see what we end up with. So what I've done, I've actually 3D printed well, it's going to be a flange, and that's to mimic the flange I'll turn up for the start of the engine. Now when you go into programming for tuned pipes and things like that, it takes it from like the flange face back in here as the start of the exhaust. So I've actually got an extension, and so the actual calculated pipe will start from here. So we're going to make up new nuts. You can see how, I don't know if you can pick it up, but there's like 4 threads missing there that this nut hasn't engaged to, and they're a bit like that. We'd also want a bit of a flange on here so we can lock wire it. So obviously this is the Walsh engine that I raced last year. This is obviously the head we're trying to replicate, and actually looking across here, even they've got some poor fill in some of the fins. Not as poor as mine were, but anyway, this is what we're doing at the moment. We'll get this routed through and just see how it looks going through the bike and have a bit of a play. So it's a bit hard to make out, but you can see my wire heading off there and finishing up there. Now that is the end of the tapered sections. You've still got a stinger to go out after that. So it's a fairly lengthy pipe, but once it gets up into here, it's like 100 mil in diameter, 4 inches in the old scale. So there's your reverse cone is actually out through there. So 3-stage exhaust, so that actually will work. So what I've got to do now is just go and measure the degrees of turn or directional change I want for each section as it moves through the bike. But I think that'll work pretty well there, because I'm going to build side covers on either side, because they'll have to have the racing number and like the I'll grab the picture. Like the Matisses do, like this section in here. It's all right for the big old twins like these because they can just run the pipes around the outside, nice and short. But the pipe I've got is probably a third again as long as that. So yeah, well, for the side panels over here, I think that'll work fine, even if I've got to have a bit of a scallop in the panel to allow the pipe to come through, and the same around this side where the pipe comes out. I can have a little bit of a relief, and I think I've seen it on one other Matisse. But the other thing I'm looking for when I'm trying to find a route is like existing attachment points. Like we've got a stud here with a nut on it, plus you've got your frame engine mounts here, so that gives me attachment points. I don't have to go or minimise the welding I have to do to the frame. So it'll sort of come out and be parallel from here. I'll have a stinger out to the back here, probably put a muffler on it because these things are excruciatingly loud, but I am pretty happy with that. So the reason I need to get all these angles right is that I take it into the sheet metal guy in town. He's got a template, he's got a computer program that will give you or calculate the segments for tapers when they're turning through angles. So I give him the degrees I want of direction, how many segments I want it in. He just calculates it. It just prints out the templates on an A4 paper. You cut them out. So the reason I want to do that is that I think I've said before, I'll cut them out in cardboard, like craft cardboard, each segment, and actually tape all the segments together and get them to work. Then mark those segments, so when I transfer them onto metal, we know where we're going to tack weld it all together to get it to go through. But I'm pretty happy. I don't think that'll look too bad. It won't be sitting too close to your leg because your foot peg's back here. So, well, actually it might be, but that's hanging like that, blasted. So I'll be running that a bit closer, but I think it'll work all right. So after doing all my exhaust stuff, I just gave Justin a hand to get this D7 engine for this pastoral over here done. So we've done a full strip down, inspection, check, repair in less than a day on that, the two of us. So that engine's actually in pretty good nick. There's a few things that were wrong in it. A couple of strip threads, so a couple of helicoils and things like that. But yeah, it's come up all right. Whoever did it, they actually blasted it in garnet, so the customer didn't want it touched, but she's pretty rough. Anyway, engineering wise and everything like that, that engine that'll be fantastic. So for this bike, we get onto cycle parts, and for this bike, I've got to do a bit of maths, work out some things, but I'm pretty happy with that we can get the pipe going where we want it to go. So from me at Oz Bantams, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of how we're going and what's happening in the workshop and everything like that. To everyone who's a subscriber, really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your ongoing support. And until next time, when I think we'll start building an exhaust and see how we go. From us at Oz Bantams, we'll see you later.